The radio static sliced through the night like a blade. 8,000 feet above the Cunnar Valley, the Blackhawk's cabin trembled beneath the heavy churn of its rotors. Dust, sweat, and silence, until that voice came through. Calm, precise, female. All call signs, this is Phantom Signal. Mission complete. Package delivered. Master Sergeant Jake Donovan froze. The words echoed in his headset, cutting through the engine's roar. His thick fingers tightened around the radio handset, knuckles whitening. For a long moment, nobody breathed. 15 minutes ago, he and his Delta team had thrown Staff Sergeant Sloan Mitchell out of this same helicopter. No parachute, no rope, just the void. Now her voice, or something pretending to be her voice, was speaking back to them through their own encrypted frequency. The others looked at him, confusion flashing through night vision green. Patterson's voice cracked through the comms. "Reaper 6, do you copy? Who the hell is that?" No one answered. The phantom voice came again, clearer, colder, almost smiling. "Your package has been delivered exactly where it needed to be. Clock starts now." They all heard it, her call sign, her cadence, her tone, but it was impossible. Sloan Mitchell was gone, they'd made sure of that. No one spoke. Only the wind outside howled in their headsets. Donovan's pulse thudded against his temple as he stared at the silent radio, his mind trying to process what logic refused to accept. He was a man who didn't scare easily. But this was something different. Because ghosts didn't use encrypted military frequencies. And voices from the dead didn't smile. That morning, the world had seemed almost peaceful. Dawn light poured over the Hindu Kush like molten copper, sharp ridges glowing against the deep blue of an Afghan sky. At Forward Operating Base Warrior, soldiers moved in practiced rhythm, maintenance crews fueling trucks, medics checking kits, engineers arguing over cables. War had its own kind of order, its own heartbeat. But in war, calm usually meant someone somewhere was about to die. In the communications bunker, Sloan Mitchell sat surrounded by soft light from a dozen monitors. Her fingers glided over keyboards, switching frequencies, decoding transmissions, typing fast, the quiet intensity of someone who lived inside signals and sound waves. She was young, but carried herself like someone who'd already seen too much. Her hair was pulled into a messy high bun, a few light brown curls framing freckled cheeks, eyes green as glass, steady, unreadable, the kind of gaze that listened even when you weren't speaking. Most people on base barely noticed her. To them, she was the quiet comms tech, the one who fixed the impossible glitches and made broken systems hum again. But Lieutenant Carlos Torres, her direct superior, had learned to pay attention. He'd seen enough deployments to know when someone's skill didn't match their rank. He walked up behind her desk, holding 2 coffees. "Signal degradation's been fixed?" he asked. She nodded, eyes still on her screens. Around 0300, Taliban set up a new radio tower about 12 clicks northeast. I adjusted our frequency hopping pattern. We're clear. Her voice was calm, unhurried, and completely in control. Torres studied the endless streams of data flashing across her monitors. He didn't understand half of it, waveforms, encryption patterns, algorithmic signatures, but he understood results. She never failed. How do you always know what's wrong before anyone else even sees it? Sloan smiled faintly. Patterns become obvious once you know where to look. The words lingered longer than they should have. The bunker door slammed open. The shift in atmosphere was immediate. 5 men entered like a shadow cutting across the room. Delta Force, the kind of soldiers everyone pretended not to watch but always did. They moved with an economy that came from years of violence, predators wearing discipline like a uniform. Jake Donovan led them, filling the doorway with his size and presence. His shaved head gleamed under the fluorescent light. Scars webbed across his neck and face, the kind you didn't get from training. Behind him, Marcus "Bull" Thompson, all muscle and mass, moved like a human battering ram. Then came Ryan Ghost Coleman, thin, quiet, eyes always watching. Derek Patterson, nervous hands tapping against his thigh, his energy brittle and fast, a demolitions man, Tor's guest. And finally, Tommy Kid Johnson, the youngest, carrying that twitchy blend of fear and admiration that came from serving beside legends. The room's energy dropped 10 degrees as they entered. Conversations died. Even the hum of machines seemed quieter. Mitchell, Donovan said. No greeting, no rank, just her name. Sloan turned in her chair, unfazed. Yes, Sergeant. We need your expertise, tonight. Sensitive comms monitoring. Tors straightened, instinctively stepping between them. Any requests for my staff go through proper channels. Donovan's thin smile was colder than the air conditioning. Colonel's orders, she's coming with us. Tors hesitated. He could push back, but there was something in Donovan's tone, something final. Still, he tried. At least brief me on the nature of the task. Marcus Thompson grinned, showing no humor. Classified. You follow orders, Lieutenant. That's all you need to know. Around the bunker, no one moved. Everyone knew better. Sloan rose slowly, her calm composure unbroken. When do you need me? 1800 hours, Coleman answered from the back, soft voice, dead eyes. Full gear. Long-duration capability, Patterson added, his fingers still tapping invisible code. Sloan nodded, understood. For a fraction of a second, her gaze met Donovan's, green eyes steady against gray. He saw no fear there, only calculation, and it made something in him tighten. She wasn't like the others he'd intimidated. And that made her dangerous. As they turned to leave, the air seemed to breathe again. Tors exhaled slowly, stepping closer to her. You don't have to go through with this, Mitchell. I can deny the request. She shook her head, eyes still on her screens. No need, sir, just another shift. But the code scrolling across her monitors told another story, encrypted signals, unauthorized bursts, patterns hidden within normal communication flow. She'd been tracking something big. Sir, she said quietly, have you noticed any outgoing transmissions that don't match protocol? Tors frowned. You mean unauthorized communications? Exactly, encrypted bursts during shift changes. They're not random. She brought up a graph of red and blue lines, small blips marking transmissions no one had logged. Someone's hiding something, and they're careful, but not careful enough. Tor's stomach dropped. He'd seen betrayal before, but never inside his own walls. This needs to go to command. Not yet, she interrupted, her voice lowering. If I'm right, reporting it through normal channels could tip them off. Whoever's doing this has reach, deep reach. He studied her, realizing she wasn't just guessing, she already knew. What are you saying, Mitchell? I'm saying tonight's mission might not be what it looks like, and the people requesting me might not have the Army's best interests in mind. The words hung there like a loaded weapon. Outside, a convoy rumbled past. Inside, Sloan returned to her screens, hands moving faster now, pulling data like threads from a web only she could see. Her reflection in the monitor looked pale, focused, but beneath the professional surface lived something colder, purpose. Fear and determination wrapped so tightly together they looked like calm. Tors hesitated, torn between command structure and instinct. Whatever you're planning. She cut him off gently. I'm not planning anything, sir. I'm just following patterns. Her fingers stilled for the briefest second. Sometimes patterns tell you who's going to die next. Hours later, the base was alive again. Engines rumbling, boots clattering, helicopters spooling up for night ops. But in the comms bunker, the world narrowed to a few screens and one quiet heartbeat. Sloan sat in the dim glow, her equipment case beside her, checking and rechecking every setting. Each keystroke, each glance rehearsed. She knew what this was. She wasn't just being borrowed. She was being erased. A fellow comms officer, Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, approached, worry written across her face. Sloan, What's really going on? Those Delta guys have been asking weird questions about logs overrides who can change what. Sloan didn't look up. When did they start asking? A week ago, right around the time those new Taliban intercepts started popping up. Sloan nodded slowly. That fits. Rodriguez crossed her arms. Fits what? That someone's been selling us out, and that they're getting nervous. Maria blinked. You think they're behind the leaks? Sloan looked up finally, green eyes meeting hers, steady, haunting. I think I'm not supposed to come back from tonight's mission. Rodriguez froze. Then don't go tell the colonel, hell, tell Tors. Sloan shook her head. If I run, they'll know I know, and someone else will die in my place. She closed her case, locking it shut. But if I go, maybe I can end it. Maria swallowed hard. Then tell me what to do. Sloan hesitated, then leaned closer. If I don't come back, check the redundant logs, the hidden backups. You'll find transmissions that don't match any mission schedule. Record them. Send them to Cyber Command. Rodriguez nodded, her throat tight. And you? Sloan smiled faintly, a flicker of sadness in it. Me, I'll be fine. It was the kind of lie soldiers told, so others could sleep. Outside, rotors started spinning. The night called. She stood, slinging her gear over her shoulder, walking toward the door with the calm of someone who had already accepted the outcome. Every step echoed like a countdown. When the Delta team returned, the bunker fell silent again. They wore black ops gear, rifles slung, faces hard, movements sharp and practiced. This was no reconnaissance team. This was a firing squad wrapped in protocol. Ready? Donovan asked. Sloan met his gaze. Always. Thompson's grin was humorless. Hope you're not afraid of heights. I've been higher than you think, she replied softly. For a brief moment, Donovan almost admired her nerve. Then he remembered why she was here. She knew too much. And tonight, she'd disappear like she never existed. As she climbed into the Blackhawk, the Afghan night swallowing them whole, Sloan Mitchell didn't look back at the base. She didn't need to. She'd already set her trap. And if everything went as planned, by the time the sun rose, the hunters would learn what it felt like to be prey. The wind tasted like dust and fuel. Floodlights painted the helipad in white glare as engines spooled up one by one. In the distance, the mountains waited jagged silhouettes against a bruised sky, indifferent to what men and women planned beneath them. Sloan Mitchell stood at the edge of the tarmac, headset around her neck, gear case gripped tight in one hand. The Blackhawk loomed ahead, its rotors cutting lazy circles through the twilight, each rotation stirring the air like a slow heartbeat. She'd rehearsed this moment for weeks, every variable, every line of code, every way this could end. But plans, she'd learned, always sounded cleaner in silence than they looked in motion. The real thing always shook, always hurt. Chief Warrant Officer David Park leaned from the cockpit, giving her a thumbs up. We lift in 5. His voice carried easy confidence, the kind that came from surviving 47 missions too many. She nodded back, forcing a small smile. He didn't need to know what kind of mission this really was. Behind her, the Delta team emerged from the shadows. Donovan first, helmet under one arm, rifle slung across his chest. Thompson beside him, broad enough to eclipse the floodlight for a second. Patterson lugged a case of electronics, wires, screens, antennas, the kind of gear meant for surveillance, or for control. Coleman walked in their wake, silent as a ghost, while Johnson brought up the rear, young eyes darting, eager, nervous. They looked like predators out for a casual hunt. Sloan didn't move as they approached. The wind whipped a few strands of hair loose across her face, but her gaze never left the helicopter, calm on the surface. Inside, her pulse drummed like rotor blades. Evening, Mitchell, Donovan said, voice casual, too casual. Ready to earn your pay. Always ready, Sergeant. He gave a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. Good, we appreciate team players. Patterson dropped his equipment near her feet, crouching to check connections. You got your own gear. She held up the compact case. "Everything I need's in here." He glanced at it, curiosity flickering, then fading. "Looks light." "Efficiency's an art," she replied. Thompson chuckled, deep, humorless. "Hope you packed parachutes." She met his gaze evenly. "Should I need one?" "Depends," he said, "on how the night goes." The exchange earned a few smirks. The kind soldiers used when the line between joke and threat blurred too thin to tell apart. Donovan turned to his men. "Mount up." They moved with practiced rhythm, every strap tightened, every latch checked. Sloan followed, stepping into the belly of the aircraft. The smell of oil and metal hit her immediately, familiar, grounding. She slid into her seat near the console, secured her harness, and placed her case between her boots. Around her, the deltas filled the space like storm clouds closing in. The engines roared. The Black Hawk lifted, leaving the safety of the base behind. Below, the lights of Fob Warrior shrank until they looked like stars buried in dust. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the thrum of machinery and the pulse of wind through the cabin. Then Donovan's voice came over the intercom. 25 minutes to target area. Eyes open, no chatter. The discipline of killers. Sloan adjusted her headset, opened her case, and powered the small device inside. The screen glowed faintly, a cascade of encrypted signals scrolling across. To the untrained eye, it looked like noise, but she saw patterns. She always saw patterns. A soft green icon blinked in the corner. Link established. Somewhere far beyond Afghanistan, a satellite caught her whisper. Donovan noticed the movement. That new. Experimental relay. Faster frequency sweep, she said without looking up. He grunted. Hope it works better than what command gives us. It usually does. The helicopter leveled out, cruising at 8,000 feet. Below them, the Kunar Valley stretched, a maze of shadows and ridges. Beautiful, deadly. Donovan leaned forward, scanning terrain through the window. "Mitchell, start monitoring for enemy coordination traffic." She keyed a few commands. "Copy. Scanning all bands between 30 and 300 megahertz. Nothing yet." "Keep at it," Patterson added. "We're looking for encrypted bursts, synchronized timing, the kind of stuff that says somebody's coordinating hits." Her fingers danced. Understood. Inside, she could feel their eyes on her, watching not just what she did but how she moved. Every glance, every breath measured. They weren't here for the Taliban. They were here for her. The question wasn't if, it was when. Minutes passed. Thompson stretched, rolling his shoulders. Quiet night. Coleman's whisper barely carried through the comms. Too quiet. Johnson laughed nervously. "Man, that's cliché." "Maybe," Coleman said, "but sometimes clichés keep you alive." Sloan's screen flashed. A small burst on a non-standard frequency, outgoing, encrypted. She knew that pattern. She'd seen it in the base logs, the same signature that had haunted her for weeks. Her pulse quickened. She muted the channel, recording it silently to a hidden drive. Donovan noticed her pause. "You pick something up." She hesitated just long enough to seem thoughtful. Possibly interference. Could be civilian radio bleed. "Double check," he ordered. "Already on it." Her tone stayed steady, professional, unreadable. The device in her lap continued streaming, feeding every second of conversation into a hidden subroutine, compressing, encrypting, and transmitting. Every word spoken in this helicopter was being sent somewhere none of them could reach. Donovan shifted, his voice dropping lower. "Mitchell, we need to discuss something." She didn't look up. "I'm listening." "Intel says someone been leaking tactical data, patrol routes, encryption keys, defensive grids. The kind of info that gets Americans killed." "That's a serious accusation." Patterson leaned forward, eyes narrow. "It's more than accusation. We've got evidence, patterns, timing, transmissions." Thompson's voice came heavy and blunt. "All signs point to someone inside communications, someone with access to everything." Coleman's whisper followed, smooth as silk. Someone who thinks they're clever enough to hide it. Johnson added, eager, cruel, someone like you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sloan didn't flinch, didn't even blink, she just kept working. You're right, she said quietly. The men exchanged quick glances. Donovan frowned. You're admitting it. I'm confirming your analysis, she replied. Someone has been selling information, someone with access, someone sitting very close to you right now. The silence that followed was almost physical. The hum of engines, the click of a strap, someone's breath. Donovan's hand drifted toward his sidearm. You want to explain that? Sloan reached into her case and lifted the small device onto her lap. Its screen pulsed with scrolling data, more advanced than anything in Patterson's kit. You see these bursts. They match the pattern of outgoing transmissions from Fob Warrior. I traced them. Patterson frowned, leaning closer despite himself. That's not possible. You'd need full-spectrum access. I have full-spectrum access, she said, because someone had to clean up the mess you left. Thompson's jaw tightened. Careful, Sergeant. No need, she said softly. I'm past careful. The men tensed. Every one of them understanding this had gone off script. Donovan's voice dropped to a cold growl. You're going to shut that off and explain who you're really working for. I'm working for the same flag you used to salute, she said. Difference is I still mean it. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Thompson unbuckled, rising just enough to loom over her. Enough games. She looked up at him, calm, steady. Agreed. Her thumb tapped the device. A red light blinked once, barely visible, and the signal spread across the cabin like invisible lightning. Every headset crackled. Every channel shifted. Patterson's screens flickered, then froze. What the hell? His jammers were dead, his equipment useless. Sloan's voice stayed even. Everything you've said for the last 37 minutes has been recorded. Real-time uplink, triple encrypted. You're all very popular right now. Donovan lunged, grabbing her harness. Bluffing. Maybe, she said, but are you sure you want to test it at 8,000 feet? The helicopter pitched slightly as the pilot adjusted altitude. The open door rattled against its frame, wind screaming through the gap. The men exchanged looks, silent calculation between wolves cornered by one small, unarmed woman. Donovan made his choice. Thompson, he said, open the door. The massive soldier moved. Metal groaned. Cold air roared in. Patterson rerouted his system, cutting internal comms so the cockpit wouldn't hear. Coleman produced rope. Johnson's hands shook as he helped. Excitement and dread tangled in his breath. Sloan didn't fight when they unlatched her harness, didn't plead. She met Donovan's eyes as he lifted her from the floor, wind clawing at her hair. You think this ends here, she said, but you don't understand the kind of mission I'm on. He hesitated just for an instant. Any last words? She smiled faintly. Yeah, check your comms. Then they threw her out. The wind swallowed everything, her hair, her voice, her body, into black nothing. One moment she existed, the next she was gone. No scream, no echo, just silence. Inside the helicopter, Donovan stood by the open door, breathing hard. The others avoided his eyes. It was done. Clean, efficient. Patterson re-enabled the comms. The static settled into familiar rhythm. Problem solved, Thompson muttered. Donovan nodded once. No witnesses, no leaks. 17 seconds passed. Then the radio crackled to life. All call signs, came a voice, calm, unmistakable, and alive. This is Phantom Signal, mission complete, package delivered. Every head turned toward the radio. Patterson's hands froze above his controls. Donovan's grip tightened around the handset. The voice continued, smooth as ice. Reaper 6, do you copy? Your package has been delivered exactly where it needed to be. Clock starts now. No one spoke. No one breathed. Donovan stared into the dark, 8,000 feet above a valley that had just swallowed a ghost. The sound of her voice filled the cabin, steady, confident, almost amused. And in that moment, for the first time in years, Jake Donovan, the man who feared nothing, realized he might finally have met something he couldn't kill. The first sign something was wrong came not from a scream, not from radar, but from silence. In the communications bunker at Fob Warrior, the constant hum of chatter, patrol check-ins, convoy updates, encrypted bursts suddenly fractured. The static that followed was sharp enough to make operators glance up from their consoles. Then through that fractured static, a voice broke through. Calm, precise. All call signs, this is Phantom Signal. Mission complete. Package delivered. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez froze mid-sentence. The frequency belonged to an airborne Delta Force mission, one she'd watched lift off 20 minutes ago. And the voice, it shouldn't exist. Lieutenant Torres, she whispered, you need to hear this. Torres was already moving, his chair scraping back, headset pressed tight against his ear. The playback repeated once, then again, each repetition tightening the knot in his chest. He knew that voice. Everyone in the bunker did. Sloan Mitchell, the woman who'd left this same room calm, confident, alive. But the tone in that transmission wasn't a survivor's panic. It was command. He opened the internal comms. Command Ops, this is Warrior Comms. We have an unscheduled broadcast on Delta Frequency Bravo 7. Playback confirms voice of Staff Sergeant Mitchell. A pause, then Colonel Hayes's gravel voice answered, clipped and steady. Repeat that, Lieutenant. Torres swallowed hard. She said, mission complete. Package delivered. Sir, she was declared airborne with Reaper team less than half an hour ago. Hayes's next words were measured, but there was iron underneath. Route the transmission to my channel, now. Within seconds, the Tactical Operations Center glowed with monitors replaying Sloan's message. Officers crowded around as though the sound itself might offer answers. Hayes stood still at the center, arms folded, expression unreadable. Timestamp. 17 minutes after takeoff, Rodriguez replied. Altitude confirms 8,000 feet. Signal origin, somewhere directly above the Kunar Valley. Hayes turned to Torres. Was the Reaper team transmitting anything at that moment? Torres checked his log. Negative, sir. All channels were jammed. Then how, Hayes asked quietly, did she get through? No one had an answer. The colonel's gaze moved across the room, settling briefly on the empty chair where Sloan had sat that morning. He'd approved her temporary assignment himself. A routine request, he'd thought. Now, that decision hung in the air like a live grenade. Keep recording every frequency, he ordered. If that voice comes back, I want it before the echo dies. 8,000 feet above them, the Blackhawk felt smaller than it had 10 minutes earlier. The cockpit lights glowed dim red. Faces were washed in it, hard and pale. The men sat in rigid silence. Only the engines filled the void. Donovan's fingers dug into the radio handset. She's dead, he muttered. She's dead. Patterson was bent over his console, fingers flying, eyes wide. All jammers are active. No external signals getting in or out, but I'm reading feedback. From where? He hesitated. From us. The radio crackled again, that same calm tone threading through chaos. Reaper 6, do you copy? Your package has been delivered exactly where it needed to be. Clock starts now. Johnson pressed his back against the cabin wall. What does that mean? What clock? Nobody answered. Because in that single sentence, each man heard something different. Accusation, warning, maybe countdown. Thompson's voice came rough. That's a recording. She rigged something, maybe left a timed transmitter. No, Patterson interrupted. You don't understand. She's answering live. There's modulation drift, not playback. She's transmitting. Coleman's whisper sliced through. From where? She fell 8,000 feet. No one looked at the open door. The radio clicked again, one final sentence wrapping around them like ice. You should know your entire conversation for the past 37 minutes has been recorded and transmitted to Cyber Command. Then the line went dead. For a moment, the world held its breath. The only sound was the turbine's low whine. Donovan felt sweat trickle down his neck. The air inside the cabin tasted metallic, wrong. He finally spoke, voice flat. "Pilot, return to base, now." Chief Park's reply crackled back. "Copy that, Reaper 6. Confirm reason for mission abort." "Mechanical," Donovan lied. "Stabilizer issue." "Understood, coming about." The Blackhawk banked hard, its lights flickering across the valley below. Nobody spoke again. Back at the base, the Tactical Operations Center erupted into organized chaos. Screens filled with telemetry, analysts shouted coordinates, encryption techs tried to isolate the signal origin. Hayes stood amid it all, unmoving. "Colonel," a comms officer called, "we're picking up a return signature from the same frequency block. Very faint. It's repeating some kind of coded string." "Play it." The room fell silent. The speakers hissed, then a burst of tones, rhythmic, deliberate. Rodriguez's eyes widened as she scribbled notes. "That's not random, sir. It's a data dump handshake. She's uplinking something." "Can you trace it?" She shook her head. "No, sir. It's bouncing through at least 4 satellites. Someone's rerouting it in real time." Hayes turned to Tors, "Who trained her?" Tors swallowed. "No one, sir, at least not officially." Hayes's gaze shifted to the corner monitor showing the Blackhawk's flight path, the line that had just curved back toward them. "They're coming home," Tors said. The colonel didn't answer. He just nodded slowly, as though confirming something he'd suspected all along. The helicopter crossed back into base airspace under the dim starlight. Down below, floodlights flared on the landing zone. From his cockpit, Chief Park watched the perimeter fill with MPs and command vehicles. His gut twisted. "Reaper 6, this is Warrior Base," the tower crackled. "Confirm personnel status." Donovan hesitated. "All personnel present." Even the lie sounded tired. They descended fast. The skids touched asphalt with a heavy jolt. Before the rotors stopped turning, armed soldiers surrounded the craft. Through the windshield, Park saw Colonel Hayes standing at the edge of the pad, hands clasped behind his back, expression carved from stone. The cabin door slid open. Hot air rushed in. "Step out," an MP ordered. "Weapons on the ground." The Delta team hesitated. Then Donovan signaled compliance. Rifles clattered to the deck one by one. Boots hit the tarmac. Hayes waited until they stood in a line before him, 5 silhouettes beneath the blinding lights. "Sergeant Donovan," he said evenly, "care to explain why your team aborted mission protocol?" "Equipment malfunction, sir." "Try again." Donovan met his eyes. "We had unexpected interference." "Interference?" Hayes repeated the word like it was foreign. "You mean the one using your personal frequency codes?" No response. The colonel stepped closer, voice dropping. "Where is Sergeant Mitchell?" Donovan hesitated, a flicker, barely visible. "She fell." "How?" "Accident during equipment transfer." Hayes studied him for a long time. "You expect me to believe that?" "No, sir," Donovan admitted quietly. Behind them, the Blackhawk's radio still crackled softly. A sound no one should have heard again, a breath, a whisper, faint under static. "Colonel Hayes." He turned toward the aircraft, blood running cold. "Patch that through." The sound sharpened, words forming, calm, steady, alive. "This is Phantom Signal. Recommend immediate detainment of Reaper team for charges under U.S. Code Chapter 104. Authentication Alpha 77. The MP stiffened. Torres stared. Rodriguez covered her mouth. Hayes exhaled slowly, then looked back at the stunned operators. "You just heard that. Anything to say?" Patterson stammered, "Sir, that's impossible." "Apparently not." He nodded once to the MPs. "Take them." As they were led away, Johnson's voice cracked in panic. "She's dead. We saw her fall." Hayes didn't answer. He watched them disappear into the floodlight glare, expression unreadable. Then he turned to Torres. "Pull every comms log she ever touched. I want to know exactly who she was." Hours later, the base had gone quiet again. The desert wind moved dust along the runway like whispers from something ancient. Torres sat alone in the communications bunker, replaying the recording. Each word sent a chill down his spine. "Mission complete, package delivered." He remembered Sloan's final words before she left. Sometimes the best way to catch predators is to let them think they're hunting prey. He understood now. She'd known exactly what she was walking into, and she'd used herself as bait. Rodriguez entered quietly, holding a flash drive. "Sir, I checked the redundant backups like she told me." Torres looked up and... She set it on the desk. "You need to see for yourself." He inserted it. The screen filled with logs, outgoing transmissions during meal breaks, encrypted bursts hidden in maintenance channels. Dates, times, coordinates. Everyone leading to Taliban ambush zones. And everyone traced back to user access codes belonging to the Delta team. Torres leaned back, feeling the air leave his lungs. She had them pegged the whole time. Rodriguez's voice trembled. "Then why go up there? Why let them?" "Because proof means nothing without confession," he said quietly. "She needed them to show their hand." He stared at the endless rows of data until his vision blurred. In one corner of the screen, a message blinked, time-stamped moments before the phantom transmission. "Uplink complete, evidence secured, don't stop looking. SM." Torres swallowed the lump in his throat. She knew she wouldn't come back. Rodriguez's eyes glistened. Then who's speaking on the radio now? The question hung there, soft and terrifying. Torres looked at the clock. 3 hours since the fall. No locator beacon, no parachute signal, no body. Just a voice traveling through frequencies no one could trace. He leaned forward, whispering to the empty room, half plea, half prayer. "Where are you, Mitchell?" In the night beyond the base, the mountains of Kunar held their silence. Somewhere high above, a faint digital pulse bounced between satellites, a pattern repeating every 6 minutes. To most, it would sound like noise. To one listener, it carried meaning. A heartbeat in code. A promise not yet fulfilled. And as the lights of Fob Warrior faded into the horizon, a quiet voice moved through the static once more, unheard by anyone still awake. "Phase 2 begins now." Wind tore the breath from her lungs the moment she dropped. The world became sound and fury, black sky, white noise, spinning stars. The air howled past her ears so violently it felt like it could rip her apart. Sloan Mitchell didn't scream. She counted. 8,000 feet, 22 seconds to impact. Plenty of time if everything worked. The altimeter on her wrist blinked against the rushing dark. 7,900. Her right hand gripped the trigger clasp hidden beneath her vest, no larger than a coin, cold against her palm. The device was a one-off prototype, a hybrid of compressed polymer and micro-drone tech. Only 2 existed in the world. She'd spent months calibrating it in secret, hidden beneath the pretense of network diagnostics. 7,400. The trigger clicked. Above her, invisible to the Delta team watching, a burst of electromagnetic countermeasures detonated in a soft halo, a disruption field that rendered all optical and infrared tracking blind for exactly 6 seconds. Just enough. From her vest's interior lining, 4 carbon fiber panels snapped outward, catching air like claws. They weren't a parachute, more like aerodynamic brakes, bleeding speed, slowing the fall just enough for Phase 2. 6,000. A second click released the compact drone tethered to her back. It ignited, stabilizing her spin. The small machine hummed, its rotors folding into wings, its autopilot engaging on a coded signal. Return home. 4,000. The ground below was a blur of jagged rock and ghostly silver rivers. She twisted midair, adjusting her angle. Pain lanced through her shoulder, a ligament tearing, but she kept counting. Every second mattered. 2,000. The drone above pulsed once. A soft flare, invisible to radar, marked her descent trajectory to the device buried days earlier beneath an innocuous boulder, a decoy crash zone. If anyone tried to locate a body, that's where they'd look. 1,000. She gritted her teeth, triggered final deployment. A parachute no bigger than a duffel bag burst open, barely enough to decelerate her speed before the valley floor surged upward. Impact came like thunder. Then stillness. Sloan lay half-buried in the dust and silence, lungs burning, body screaming. But she was alive. The system had worked. Barely. Her vision swam in waves of color as adrenaline fought shock. She pressed her gloved fingers to her earpiece. Control, this is Asset Sierra Mike. Confirm uplink continuity. Static answered, then a calm male voice. Phantom signal, this is Command Echo. Uplink received. You're dark to all local frequencies. Sitrep. She closed her eyes. Relief flooded her chest like air returning to drowning lungs. Phase 1 complete. Hostile assets believed termination successful. Evidence uplink continuous. Copy, proceed to Phase 2. Extraction window in 90 minutes. Understood. She cut the line. Above, the Blackhawk had already vanished, a distant mechanical echo swallowed by night. She could almost picture their faces when her voice reached their headsets. That thought kept her conscious. Sloan struggled to her knees, unclipping her harness, her entire body trembling. One leg protested, not broken but close. She bit down on the pain, dragged herself toward the ridge. The valley smelled of gunpowder and sand. Around her, the world was vast, empty, uncaring. She'd known she wouldn't make it out unscathed, but she hadn't expected the quiet. It was beautiful. Half an hour later, the drone she'd launched circled back, its onboard camera blinking faintly in the dark. It projected her pre-recorded facial scan into its transmitter array, the same one she'd programmed with her voice signature. From 8,000 feet above, it would seem like she was still broadcasting. The perfect ghost. But she hadn't expected what came next. A sound, faint at first, echoed through her headset. A recording looped through her secured channel. You should know your entire conversation for the past 37 minutes has been recorded and transmitted to Cyber Command. She froze. That wasn't her pre-recorded loop, that was live. Someone had accessed her backup channel. She checked the source. Encrypted, locked, untraceable. Then a line of text appeared on her wrist display, glowing soft blue. Echo transmission confirmed. Phantom Live feed integrated. Proceed to command relay. Her breath caught. They moved faster than planned. Cyber Command had taken over the channel mid-drop, using her uplink to broadcast directly from orbit. Which meant they were listening. And the message that haunted the Delta team, mission complete, package delivered, wasn't a taunt. It was confirmation. Phase 1 was over. The package wasn't her. It was their confession. She crawled beneath a cluster of jagged rocks, the drone landing nearby with mechanical chirps. Her shoulder throbbed. Blood seeped through her sleeve. She pulled open her vest pocket and took out a single photo, 2 women, identical smiles, arms around each other. Her twin sister, Sarah. Sloan traced the edge of the picture with trembling fingers. "You were right," she whispered. "You always said the truth costs more than lies." Sarah had been NSA Cyber Command before Sloan ever joined the Army. She recruited Sloan herself quietly, off-record, under the guise of cross-agency liaison. Together, they'd spent months tracking rogue operations, soldiers selling coordinates, command codes, and troop schedules to the highest bidder. The trail had led here to Cunnar, to Donovan's team. But infiltration required more than code. It needed a face the enemy would trust. Sarah's face. That was the real reason Sloan had come, to wear her sister's name, her clearance, her rank. The only way to get close to the leak was to become invisible, and in this world, invisible meant underestimated. She'd expected discovery, she'd prepared for it. She just hadn't planned to fall this far. The next hour bled together. She tore strips from her shirt to bandage her arm, forced herself to move, to breathe, to keep the drone within range. Above, stars glittered through thin air. Somewhere out there, Sarah was listening, monitoring the operation from a satellite feed far beyond reach. At least that's what Sloan told herself. When she activated her secondary beacon, she expected the familiar click of encrypted confirmation. Instead, the channel crackled, then steadied into a soft voice. "Phantom signal, this is Echo. Be advised, Colonel Mitchell requests direct communication." Sloan froze. "Say again." "Colonel Mitchell, authentication confirmed." Her pulse stumbled, patch her through. A pause, then a voice she knew better than her own. "Sloan." Tears stung her eyes before she could stop them. "Sarah. Keep your head down, you're too exposed. You weren't supposed to call in. Operational security has changed. Cyber Command flagged multiple compromised nodes. They're pulling the plug on the entire cover program. We're exposed." Sloane's throat went dry. "Then they'll come for you too." "Already are," Sarah said softly. "Listen to me. Extraction's delayed, 40 minutes. You need to stay dark." "Copy that." A pause, then quieter. "I'm proud of you." The line went dead. Sloan lowered her head, her hand trembling over the receiver. For the first time since the mission began, the weight of it pressed down. The lies, the loss, the impossible distance between who she was and who she had to be. If they both survived, maybe she'd finally tell Sarah how much this had cost her. If. By the time the extraction drone appeared, dawn had begun to smudge the horizon with ash and pink. The small craft descended like a mechanical bird, silent, efficient. It extended a harness. Sloan clipped in, eyes half closed, body aching. As it lifted her from the valley floor, she caught one last glimpse of the rocks below, the place she should have died, the place her sister's plan had nearly buried her. Then the drone accelerated, carrying her toward the jagged ridge where a small tunnel glowed faintly. Inside, she found what she'd built months before, a dead-drop relay station disguised as broken infrastructure. Solar array, uplink, encrypted server, her real base. She sank to her knees inside the dim space, every muscle trembling. Her reflection in the cracked metal surface looked pale, blood-specked, ghost-like. And for a fleeting moment, she wondered if she was still human at all, or just another voice lost in static. She powered up the main console. A dozen encrypted feeds bloomed on screen. Base telemetry, satellite pings, comm logs, everything that mattered. At the top, one feed blinked green, Fob Warrior live transmission. She tapped it. Video filled the small display, the base helipad swarming with MPs, Colonel Hayes standing beneath floodlights. The Delta team on their knees, wrists bound. The camera's angle came from an overhead drone, her drone. Sloan leaned back against the cold wall, exhaustion and relief twisting together. They'd taken the bait. Then another feed lit up, internal comms from the colonel's office. Hayes's voice, low but clear. "Get me confirmation from Cyber Command. I want proof before I authorize detainment." A second voice answered. It took her a second to recognize it. "Sarah. Authorization Alpha 77 confirmed, sir. You have your proof." Sloan smiled through tears. Her sister had done it. The mission was real, the operation complete. And for a single, fleeting heartbeat, Everything felt worth it. Then static. The feed glitched. Sarah's voice cut off mid-sentence. A new one replaced it, male, unfamiliar, cold. Asset Sierra Mike, this is Command Echo. Colonel Mitchell is offline. Repeat, offline. Her position compromised. You are now Phantom Lead. The words hit harder than the fall ever had. Sloan stared at the screen, the world narrowing to the pulse in her ears. Say again. Phantom Lead, you are now in control of Operation Resolve. Continue data sweep. Prepare for full-scale takedown. Colonel Mitchell presumed captured. Her sister gone. The realization came slow, then all at once. Sarah had known. Her final call hadn't been a warning, it had been goodbye. Sloan sat there for a long time, head bowed, breath shallow. The desert light crept across the tunnel floor, golden and cruel. Somewhere outside, the world moved on, but inside, time stopped. When she finally looked up, her reflection stared back, dirt-streaked, blood-stained, eyes hollow but fierce. She whispered to it, barely audible, "Then we finish what we started." Her hands moved over the console, steady now, efficient. She rerouted the uplink through her sister's encryption network, setting traps, uploading every byte of evidence to global servers. Her voice returned to the airwaves, quiet but unbreakable. All call signs, this is Phantom Signal. Mission parameters have changed. Phase 2 initiating. Target scope expanded. Justice continues. And somewhere beyond the ridge, a new signal pulsed into the sky, small, rhythmic, endless. A message that said she was still alive. That the ghost in the static had a heartbeat. And that the war, the real one, had just begun. The desert never truly slept. Even at 3 in the morning, the air shimmered with heat rising from rock and sand, and somewhere beyond the wire, coyotes howled at the moon as if mocking human plans. Inside the command compound, fluorescent lights burned without mercy. The night shift whispered over keyboards, pretending the tremor in their hands was caffeine and not fear. Colonel Hayes hadn't moved in hours. He stood in front of the operations board, every feed pinned across it like veins of light. Satellite pings, drone telemetry, intercepted frequencies. Each one pulsed with Sloan Mitchell's ghost, her signal, her signature, her trail. Rodriguez appeared at his shoulder, carrying 2 mugs of black coffee. He took one without looking away. "She's still transmitting," she said quietly. "From where?" "No fixed point, sir. The packets are bouncing. We trace one, it dies. Another appears 200 miles away." Hayes sipped, meaning she's mobile. Rodriguez hesitated, or someone's helping her. Hayes turned. The question in his eyes was one no commander wanted to ask. How deep does this go? Before she could answer, a new voice crackled through the comm speaker. "Warrior Ops, this is Echo Control. Priority Alpha message for Colonel Hayes." He keyed the mic, "Send it." Effective immediately, all Phantom-related files are classified above top secret. Your base will transfer custody of detainees Reaper Team 1 to external handlers at 0600. Hayes's jaw tightened. Under whose authority? Joint Task Command, Section 9. He glanced at Rodriguez. She mouthed the words silently. Section 9 doesn't exist. Hayes's voice hardened. Copy transfer order, authorization code. The channel went dead. They stared at the silent speaker. Somewhere down the hall, the hum of air conditioning filled the gap between questions that no one wanted answered. Thousands of meters away, hidden beneath the ruins of an abandoned communications tower, Sloan watched the same base through a live drone feed. The screen flickered with infrared outlines. MPs moving, vehicles fueling, the Black Hawk parked beneath floodlights. Her arm was bandaged now, movement stiff, but her mind was sharp. Pain had become background noise. What mattered was the pattern unfolding on her screens, data routing from Fob Warrior to an unregistered satellite node, the same node her sister had flagged months before. She spoke softly, voice barely louder than the wind. "So you're still there, aren't you? The ghost above the ghost." The drone camera zoomed. Inside the command tent, a man in civilian clothes shook hands with the arresting officer. His badge glinted silver, no unit markings. Sloan recognized the insignia immediately. Section 9. The off-book intelligence branch rumored to sell information to both sides under the guise of counterterrorism. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, linking feeds, tracing IPs. Every connection led back to a single relay, embedded within the same encrypted framework her sister had designed. Someone had hijacked Sarah's architecture. Her chest tightened. Whoever had taken Sarah had also taken her code. She opened a secondary comms line. "Echo Control, this is Phantom Signal. I've confirmed unauthorized access to the Mitchell framework. Do you copy?" Silence. She tried again. Static. They'd cut her off. For the first time in a long while, Sloan felt something she hated: isolation, the cold edge of being hunted. She forced herself to breathe, to remember the rule Sarah had taught her. Fear isn't the enemy, it's the map. She followed it. Back at Fob Warrior, the prisoners sat in the interrogation block, 5 men, heads down, wrists cuffed, silence thick enough to choke. Donovan stared at the floor, expression blank. When Hayes entered, every guard straightened. "Remove restraints," he ordered. One MP hesitated. "Sir, command." "I'll take responsibility." The locks clicked open. Donovan rubbed his wrists, still not looking up. Hayes folded his arms. "You want to tell me who you were working for?" No answer. "Let me guess," Hayes continued. "Section 9 gives you off-record contracts, tells you you're protecting national interests. You deliver troop routes, mission keys, anything they need to keep their black operations funded." Donovan's eyes flicked up, dull but defiant. "You think you understand what's going on, Colonel. You don't. She doesn't either." "She?" "Mitchell," his voice cracked on the name. "You think she's your hero. She's the reason this whole thing exists. She built the system we used." Hayes leaned closer. "You're lying." Donovan smiled faintly. "Am I? Ask yourself why her clearances outranked yours." The words landed like a slow detonation. Hayes turned away, packing once. He reviewed her file, spotless, precise, inexplicably elevated for her rank. But what if that had been by design? What if the system itself had been bait? He spun back, where Section 9's handler. Donovan's smile widened, hollow and tired. "Already here." In the outer corridor, Rodriguez monitored the feeds. A line of unmarked SUVs had just rolled through the gate, each bearing false diplomatic plates. Men in plain clothes exited, faces unreadable behind mirrored glasses. She keyed her radio. "Colonel, they're here." Hayes stepped out of the cell block, watching as the newcomers approached. Their leader, a man with silver hair and a calm smile, extended a folder. "Colonel Hayes, I'm Agent Keene, Section 9. Appreciate your cooperation. We'll take the detainees now." Authorization. Signed by Central Command. You can verify if you like, though I'd advise against delay. Time sensitivity. Hayes didn't move. Funny, Central Command usually calls before sending ghosts. Keene's smile never reached his eyes, and yet here we are. Before Hayes could answer, a sound burst through the compound loudspeakers, an electronic tone rising like feedback, then resolving into a voice. Calm, familiar. "This is Phantom Signal. Colonel Hayes, do not release custody. Section 9 is compromised. Repeat, compromised. Playback authentication Alpha 7. The agents froze. Guards looked to Hayes. He raised one hand for silence. The voice continued. Cross-reference internal security feeds timestamp 0359. You'll find your proof. Rodriguez pulled it up. The footage appeared instantly. One of the Section 9 agents planting a small black device under the communications server. Hayes's stomach turned cold. When he looked back, the men in suits were already moving, hands reaching inside jackets. "Guns!" Rodriguez shouted. The hallway erupted. 2 MPs dropped before they could fire. Bullets tore through glass and concrete. Hayes dove for cover, returning fire. Rodriguez dragged a wounded soldier behind the wall, her breath ragged. Smoke filled the corridor, alarms screaming. And through it all, the speakers kept repeating that calm, implacable voice. "Hold your ground, justice continues." When the shooting stopped, 4 agents lay dead, 2 wounded. The others fled into the desert night. Hayes rose slowly, gun still in hand, blood on his sleeve. Rodriguez wiped dust from her face, trembling. "She just saved us," she said. Hayes nodded once. "No," he murmured, "she's saving something bigger." In her hidden station, Sloan watched the chaos unfold through live drone feeds. The Section 9 vehicles burned like tiny stars against the sand. She should have felt triumph. Instead, only emptiness. She activated a new window, decoding the transmission logs from Sarah's framework. Embedded deep within the data stream was a string of coordinates, not random, but a location buried beneath a mountain range 300 miles west. An underground relay, Section 9's core. Her breath steadied, Phase 3. She reached for her weapon, a compact sidearm, its surface scratched and scarred, then slid a photo from her pocket. The 2 sisters again, smiling, sunlight behind them. "Hang on, Sarah," she whispered. "I'm coming." She packed what she could carry: 2 data drives, a transmitter, 1 half-charged drone. Before leaving, she recorded a final message, routing it to the base frequency. "Colonel Hayes, this is Phantom Signal. The infection runs deeper than you think. Don't wait for orders, trust your own. If I don't make it, finish the cleanup. Sierra Mike out." She hesitated, hand resting on the console. The desert wind howled through the cracks of the ruined tower, carrying sand that glittered under moonlight. Somewhere far above, satellites watched, blind gods orbiting a world that kept making the same mistakes. Sloan stepped into the night, her silhouette swallowed by dunes. Each step hurt, but each one meant movement, purpose. Ahead lay mountains, answers, and maybe her sister. Behind her, war. Her comms earpiece crackled, once faint, broken. Then a whisper she almost imagined. "Sloan, keep going." Her heart stuttered. The voice was hers, or Sarah's, or both. She looked up at the stars, the same stars they once named as children, and let the wind take the tears before they could fall. "Copy that, sis," she said. "Mission continues." She vanished into the darkness, leaving only the faint pulse of her beacon behind, a heartbeat in the static, defying death, defying silence, carrying on. The mountain looked asleep from a distance. Its slopes rolled soft under moonlight, bare stone glinting like old scars. But up close, nothing about it was natural. Sloan counted the vents first, thin fractures in the rock that bled warm air. Then the faint hum underfoot, too constant to be wind. She'd found it. Section 9's heart, buried where no satellite ever peered long enough to question the heat. She crouched behind a ridge, exhaled through her nose, and let silence settle in her bones. Pain pulsed from her shoulder down to her fingertips. Each movement reminded her she was human. She needed that reminder now. The entry shaft lay 200 meters below, disguised as a collapsed mine. 2 guards smoked beside an armored door, rifles slung loose, faces hidden behind tinted visors. She watched them through her drone's lens, tiny, silent, circling like an insect. With a swipe, she killed the lights in their helmet HUDs. The men froze, tapping controls, confused. A moment later, she moved. The first fell without sound. The second turned, half a breath too late. The butt of her pistol cracked his visor. He hit the ground, gasping, weapon skittering away. She dragged both bodies into the shadows, heart hammering, then keyed the door pad. Her sister's encryption handshake still worked. The panel glowed green. Inside smelled of cold metal and recirculated air. Fluorescent tubes stretched down a long corridor, humming faintly like the afterthought of a storm. She slipped through, gun raised, steps soft. Every few meters a camera pivoted, then stopped, hacked a half-second before it saw her. In her ear a voice whispered, digital distorted familiar. "You're late." Sloan froze. "Sarah." "Left wing, server room, hurry." Her chest tightened. The voice could have been a trick playback from old files, but the tone, the quiet impatience felt alive. She followed it. Far away, Colonel Hayes stared at a blank map in his office, fingers steepled. Rodriguez paced behind him, restless. "She's going in alone, sir." "She always does." "We can still reach her before sunrise if we move now." He looked up. "And tell command we're breaking protocol again. They'll strip our clearance." Rodriguez stopped packing. "Then they'll have to find us first." That earned the smallest nod. He keyed his private comm. "All units Delta Zero, authorization Hayes 7-4. Assemble Ghost detail. Non-standard gear, no transponders. Objective, locate asset Sierra Mike." A pause. "Sir, confirm Black Ops status." "Confirmed, we're off the books." He killed the line, grabbed his sidearm. "If she's alive, we bring her home, if not." Rodriguez finished for him. "Then we finish what she started." Sloan reached the end of the corridor. Beyond the reinforced glass, rows of servers pulsed with blue light. Cooling vents hissed, cables thick as vines. She bypassed the lock with her wrist key. Inside, monitors displayed cascading code, each line tagged with the same prefix, MFSAR. She swallowed hard. "Sarah Framework." The system responded to her voice. "Welcome back, Sierra Mike." Her fingers flew across the console, decrypting files. Surveillance footage, bank transfers, operation manifests, proof of a machine feeding itself war for profit. Every attack blamed on insurgents, every leak engineered by Section 9 to justify more contracts. Her sister had uncovered it. They'd silenced her for it. A low beep drew her eyes to a side screen, a live feed. A woman bound to a chair, bruised, breathing shallow. Same face, older eyes, Sarah. For a moment Sloan couldn't breathe. "I found you," she whispered. The camera feed tilted as if answering. Then a voice behind her, "We were hoping you would." She spun. A man stood in the doorway, silver hair, dark suit, the same calm smile from Fob Warrior, keen. He looked almost pleased. "Impressive, Sergeant. Few people make it past our perimeter." Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Where is she?" He nodded toward the screen. "Alive for now. She's the reason we're still talking." "Let her go." "Can't. She built something extraordinary. You both did. Imagine a system that anticipates conflict before it starts, one that can sell peace as easily as chaos. That's what Section 9 perfected. You just couldn't see the beauty in it." She fired. The bullet tore through his shoulder. He staggered, still smiling. "Even now," he said, blood on his teeth, "you're predictable. That's why we win." Alarm screamed. Red lights pulsed. Doors sealed. Sloan dove behind a server rack as gunfire erupted. Sparks showered. She crawled, hit the emergency release, and yanked a power conduit free. The room plunged into strobing darkness. She moved by memory, a shadow among machines. When the last shot echoed away, Keene was gone. She reached the console again, fingers trembling. "Sarah, can you hear me?" Static, then her sister's voice, faint but there. "You shouldn't have come. You think I'd leave you. There's a failsafe. If the mainframe goes dark, it purges everything, including me." "No," Sloan's hand hovered over the keys. "There has to be another way." "There is, but you can end them, upload the evidence, burn the network. I won't lose you again." "You already did." The line clicked off. On screen a countdown appeared, mainframe purge, 0500. She stared at the digits until her vision blurred. Then she pulled the drive from her belt, plugged it in, and began the transfer. Every file, every crime, racing toward the open sky. Outside, Hayes's convoy tore across the desert. The mountains loomed ahead, dark against dawn. "Signal triangulated," Rodriguez said, staring at her tablet. "It's coming from inside that ridge." Hayes checked his watch. "We're almost out of time." The ground shuddered, faint at first, then stronger. A column of dust rose from the mountain as a muted explosion rippled underground. Rodriguez gripped the dash. "Sir." He already knew. She triggered it. Below, fire licked through the server room. Cables snapped, machines shrieked. Sloan staggered through smoke, clutching the drive. The purge timer hit 0. A blast wave knocked her to the floor. Heat washed over her back, searing. She crawled, vision swimming. The exit hatch glowed ahead. She pushed through and emerged into pre-dawn chill, coughing. Behind her, the mountain groaned as if exhaling centuries of lies. Flames roared through its vents, sparks vanishing into the pale sky. She collapsed to her knees, body shaking. The drive was still in her fist, warm but intact. She looked up at the horizon. Helicopter rotors echoed faintly, Hayes's team approaching. Her earpiece crackled. "Phantom signal, this is Ghost Detail. Do you copy?" She smiled weakly. "Copy, Colonel." "Sit tight, we have visual." "Negative, data needs uplink, priority 1. "Damn it, Sloan, you're bleeding." "Doesn't matter." She keyed her transmitter. The drive's light blinked once, twice, then steadied. Files streamed upward, riding the last open satellite link before it died with the mainframe. Evidence of every betrayal reaching hands that could no longer deny it. When it finished, she whispered, "Package delivered." The sky above the ridge brightened. She watched the sunrise through tears she hadn't noticed forming, every ray carving gold through smoke. Somewhere inside the collapsing mountain, a faint digital tone echoed, steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Hayes's helicopter set down beside her. Rodriguez jumped out first, running across the dust. Sloan tried to stand, failed. Rodriguez caught her, lowered her gently. "You did it," she whispered. Sloan managed a faint smile. "Sarah." Rodriguez hesitated. "We don't know yet." "She's out there," Sloan murmured. "She has to be." Hayes knelt beside them. "We'll find her." Sloan looked past him, to the horizon burning with dawn. "Then we finish what she started." Her eyes closed, not from defeat but from peace. Around them, the mountain kept burning, an empire of lies turning to ash in the morning wind. When consciousness returned, it came as sound. A slow, mechanical drip, the hum of electricity, the faint echo of air through vents. Then pain, dull, distant, alive. Sarah Mitchell opened her eyes to a gray ceiling. The light above her flickered like it had forgotten its purpose. Her wrists burned from restraints. Cold metal pressed against her spine. She wasn't dead, not yet. Memory came in flashes. The Section 9 ambush, the gunfire, the sting of a needle. Then darkness, the kind designed to erase names. Now she was in their hands, in the place she'd only ever seen through encrypted schematics. The belly of the machine. She turned her head slowly. Across the room, servers lined the walls, humming like trapped voices. A camera blinked red above her. She smiled faintly, whispering to herself, "You're watching me, good, that means you're afraid." She tested the bindings, too tight for strength, too old for subtlety. Then she saw it, a faint reflection in the glass of a powered terminal. Her own face, thinner, bruised, but behind her, the outline of a man's reflection standing by the door. "You're persistent," the man said, stepping forward, keen again. His arm was in a sling, blood still crusted at the edge of his collar. Sarah's voice came rough. "You should have shot me when you had the chance." "I don't shoot valuable assets." He crouched beside her, studying her like an artifact. "Your framework changed everything. Predictive warfare, controlled escalation, beautiful algorithm, really. You could have ruled this world." "Funny," she murmured. "I built it to stop wars, not sell them." He smiled. Intent is irrelevant, Colonel. Markets decide morality. She stared at him for a long time. You think data can control conscience? It can't. Then you still don't understand what you created. He rose, tapping the console. But she does. Sarah's breath caught. Who? Your sister. He turned toward the monitor, typing something she couldn't see. A new feed opened. The screen flickered to life, a grainy drone view. The image of a woman moving through the mountain tunnels, silent, fierce, alive. Sloan. Sarah's heart lurched so hard it hurt. No, she whispered. She wasn't supposed to come here. Seems she disagreed. Keen's tone was almost amused. Two prodigies for the price of one. He turned back to her, lowering his voice. You should be proud. Your sister, about to finish what you started one way or another. Then he left, the door sealed with a heavy hiss. Sarah stared at the monitor long after he was gone. Her chest ached, not from injury but from 1,000 unspoken things. The last time she'd seen Sloan was over a secure feed months ago, both of them pretending not to care that every word could be their last. She told her, if something happens to me, burn it all. And Sloan had said softly, only if I have to. Now she understood what that really meant. She closed her eyes, reached inward into memory. Fear isn't the enemy, it's the map. Her own words once a lesson. She followed them. Hours passed. The guard rotation changed twice. Sarah waited until the faint vibration in the floor matched the drone frequency she recognized. Her own creation, an AI she'd left dormant inside the system. She whispered the wake phrase under her breath. Angels fall, override. The console flickered. Text scrolled across the terminal behind her, invisible to the camera's fixed angle. Admin access granted. A soft chime, almost gentle. Hello, Colonel, said a mechanical voice. Faint, familiar, something she had written years ago. Hello, Angel, she whispered. It's been a while. Operational parameters. Locate external signal, Sierra Mike. A pause, then signal acquired, uplink in progress. Sarah's throat tightened. She's alive. On the monitor, the feed showed Sloan in the server room, facing Keen, gun raised. The delay was only seconds. Sarah's voice reached her through the secondary channel she'd buried deep within the system's code. You're late. Watching her own words echo through time felt surreal. Sloan's face lifted toward the unseen voice, eyes wide, alive with impossible recognition. Sarah couldn't cry, there wasn't time. As the alarms began, Sarah used the chaos to work. The AI cracked its restraints, rerouting power away from the door locks. She freed one hand, then the other, ignoring the pain as blood returned to her fingers. The purge countdown blinked on every screen. 5 minutes. Sloan, what did you do? She whispered. She crawled to the console, typing through blinding dizziness. Every keystroke burned like electricity. Her objective was clear now: save the data, not herself. If the purge wiped everything, Section 9 would die, but so would the proof of what they'd done. She needed to duplicate the transfer before the mainframe collapsed. Angel, mirror the upload to secure orbit. Processing. How long? 3 minutes 41 seconds. The floor shook, sparks fell from the ceiling, somewhere above gunfire echoed, then silence. Sarah looked up at the monitor. Sloan was there, standing in firelight, clutching a drive. The mountain was collapsing around her, but she was still sending data, still fighting. Sarah smiled through the smoke. That's my girl. She keyed a final command. Angel, lock the mirror. Encrypt under Ghostline. Encryption complete. Now sever connection. The AI hesitated, as if understanding what came next. Colonel, this will terminate. Do it. The screen went white. A pulse of energy ran through the floor as the mainframe blew. When she woke again, everything was quiet. Smoke drifted in thin ribbons through a hole torn in the ceiling. Sunlight poured in, thin, uncertain, beautiful. She was lying half buried under twisted metal. Her legs wouldn't move, but her chest did, breath by breath. The silence was different now, not the silence of machines but of endings. She turned her head just enough to see a small monitor still flickering beside her. Uplink complete, package delivered. And beneath it, a line of code only she would recognize. SM forever linked. Sloan had made it out. The world would know. Sarah let out a trembling laugh, half sob, half joy. The sound startled her. It had been so long since she'd remembered what laughter felt like. Above her, the sky opened wider, dust sparkling in the sunbeam like fragments of something sacred. She whispered to it, voice thin but steady, "You finished it, sis." Then she reached for the terminal one last time, dragging her fingertips across the keyboard. A single phrase appeared on the cracked screen, a message coded in her private cipher. To whoever finds this, truth is never the enemy, fear is. Her hand fell away. The monitor dimmed. The wind outside howled, carrying her words into the daylight. 2 days later, across the world, the leaks detonated like silent bombs. Encrypted data packets unfolded into every intelligence network, every embassy, every private contractor's inbox. Names, dates, proof. Contracts showing Section 9 selling American troop movements to the highest bidder. Videos of covert raids staged for political optics. And among them, one file labeled Project Angel's Fall by Sarah and Sloan Mitchell. Government scrambled, reporters whispered, alliances cracked. Inside a military hospital somewhere in Qatar, Sloan woke to the sound of chaos through a TV on mute. Rodriguez sat beside her bed, dark circles under her eyes. Hayes stood in the corner, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low tones to someone high enough to fear what came next. Sloan blinked groggily. "How long?" 2 days, Rodriguez said softly. "You flatlined once. They pulled you back." "Sarah." Rodriguez hesitated. Then she handed her a small tablet. A single message glowed on screen. Transmission received. Mirror online. Love you, kid. SM. Sloan's breath caught. A laugh escaped, broken, beautiful. She made it. Rodriguez smiled weakly. Seems like it. Outside the window, the sky was painted in the orange light of another Middle Eastern evening. Distant sirens wailed across the base, the sound of a world waking up to its own reflection. Sloan turned her head toward it, whispering to herself. She always said truth costs more than lies. Rodriguez touched her shoulder. "Worth it." Sloan looked down at her bandaged hands. Every scar has a receipt. The monitor beside her beeped softly, steady, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something that refused to end. She closed her eyes, letting exhaustion finally take her. In her dream, she stood beside Sarah on a quiet beach, the waves carrying static instead of foam, the horizon endless and bright. Her sister's voice drifted through the hum. "It's done." Sloan smiled. "No," she whispered, "it's just beginning." The tribunal chamber smelled of dust and coffee gone cold. Rows of uniforms lined the benches like silent verdicts, eyes half hidden behind military stoicism. A seal of the United States hung on the wall above the dais, its gold edges catching light from a single window. Sloan Mitchell sat alone at the center table, her left arm still in a sling. A single folder rested before her, the final report she'd written herself, concise, clinical, stripped of emotion. The kind of report that told everything and nothing at once. Colonel Hayes stood behind her, his presence quiet, steady. Rodriguez occupied the second row, watching the proceedings with the stillness of someone who'd already seen too much. At the far end, a gray-haired general leaned toward his microphone. "Staff Sergeant Mitchell," he said, voice clipped, "your actions resulted in the exposure of an intelligence network operating without oversight. They also resulted in the destruction of government property, multiple fatalities, and international embarrassment. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Sloan looked up. Her eyes were tired but clear. No, sir, she said softly. I wasn't defending myself. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The general's jaw tightened. You stand accused of treason under Article 106, yet Cyber Command confirms your data was genuine. They call you a hero. You see our problem. I see a choice, she said. Either you bury the truth again or you learn from it. For a long moment, the general just looked at her, the kind of look men give when they can't decide whether they're looking at a savior or a threat. Then he sat back. Panel will deliberate. He banged the gavel once. The sound echoed through the hollow room, fading into the kind of silence that changes people. Outside, the sky had turned the color of steel. Rain fell in thin sheets across the tarmac, washing dust into rivulets. Sloan stood under the eaves of the hangar, coat collar turned up, watching aircraft lights blink in the distance. Hayes joined her quietly. They'll deliberate all day, maybe longer. I figured. You should have had counsel. I had Sarah. That silenced him. The rain hit metal like static, soft but relentless. He handed her a small envelope. Intercepted transmission this morning, encrypted under your sister's old cipher. Sloan frowned, opened it. Inside was a memory card and a note written in clean, precise script. If you're reading this, it means you kept going. Good. The world needs a little more stubborn. SM. Sloan closed her hand around the note, throat tightening. She's alive. Hayes nodded once, somewhere off-grid but alive. A faint smile touched her lips. Then it's not over. It never is, he said. You did good, Mitchell, better than most of us ever will. She looked out across the rain-swept airfield. Good doesn't feel like much right now. Maybe not, Hayes said, but someday someone will sleep easier because you didn't. He left her then, his figure swallowed by the mist. Later that night, the tribunal reconvened. The verdict was read in a tone too formal for its meaning. All charges dropped under directive of national interest. Staff Sergeant Sloan Mitchell is hereby discharged with honors. There was applause from somewhere, uncertain, fragmented. Sloan didn't smile. She simply nodded once, signed the paperwork, and walked out. Outside, Rodriguez was waiting with a duffel bag and a half-smile. Guess that's freedom, she said. Feels heavier than it should. Where will you go? Sloan looked past her toward the horizon, where the noise is loudest. Rodriguez hugged her, quick, fierce, wordless. Don't vanish this time. No promises. She walked away, boots echoing against wet concrete. Behind her, the base lights blurred into streaks of color, reflected in puddles like memory fragments. Weeks passed. News outlets screamed and quieted in cycles. Section 9 was disbanded officially. Trials began. Politicians denied. Truth, as always, became currency traded by those who hadn't earned it. Sloan kept moving. No rank now, no command. Just a woman with scars and too many memories. She crossed borders quietly, Pakistan, Greece, Morocco, leaving no trace except rumors. In each place she found pieces of what her sister had built. Fragments of data caches, whispers of still-active cells, trails that led deeper. At night she'd sit by a window, listen to the hum of foreign streets, and imagine Sarah's voice on the other end of a signal. Sometimes she'd swear she heard it, a whisper through the static, too faint for certainty. Other times she'd wake from dreams of them as children, laughing on their father's old boat, salt air in their hair, no codes, no secrets, just peace. But peace was a luxury the world rarely paid for. One evening, deep in the ruins of a safe house overlooking the Aegean, her tablet lit with a soft ping. A message, unsigned, untraceable. Angel node reinitialized, awaiting command. Her breath caught. Angel, the AI her sister had built, the one she thought destroyed. She typed status report. The reply came almost instantly. Integrity 74%, Network active in 12 regions. Source signal detected. Then a final line. Do you wish to reconnect with Sarah //? Sloan stared at the words until they blurred. Then she typed, always. The screen went black, then flared white. Her sister's voice filled the room, faint, distant but real. You really don't know how to stay dead, do you? Sloan laughed, tears cutting through the dirt on her cheeks. Takes one to know one. You burned it all. I had to. I know, that's why I left you the map. The map. You'll see, it's bigger than both of us now. They're rebuilding under different names. You'll need help. Then help me. I will, just not from here. The voice faded, replaced by a long, low hum, the sound of static shaped like love. Sloan sat in the glow of the screen, hand pressed against it, as if touch could bridge distance. I'll finish it, she whispered. I promise. By morning, she was gone again. Locals later said they'd seen a woman board a supply vessel heading west, her coat pulled tight against the sea wind. Others swore they'd seen her walking alone along the cliffs at dawn, head bare, eyes calm. No one was certain which was true. But in classified reports buried deep in defense archives, sightings appeared, encrypted transmissions in the same frequency range as phantom signal. Always brief. Always one phrase repeated like a vow. Justice continues. Years later, in a school in Kabul rebuilt from war, a teacher showed her students an old photograph found in a broken radio. Two women in uniform, smiling under a foreign sun. Who were they? One boy asked. The teacher smiled. No one knows for sure, but they say when truth needed a voice, these two found a way to speak, even when the world tried to silence them. Another child raised her hand. Did they win? The teacher paused, looking at the picture. They didn't need to, she said. They just refused to lose. Outside, the wind carried the sound of a helicopter far away, faint, echoing like memory. And for a moment, if one listened closely, there was something else beneath the noise. A soft, rhythmic pulse across the airwaves. A heartbeat in the static. A promise kept. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.